Welcome to Bonehead.
Working in the coal mine.
Working on down,
This
down,
episode-
smoking the 420.
This
What?
episode is
It's
brought
not
to
legal.
you by the recent legalization of asbestos. Asbestos. Our Russian overlords say you love it. Look it up. It's all true.
With charitable donations from
Charitable.
Flint. I can't talk.
I have a lot of charitable notions.
I was
but
gonna make a goober joke.
Very rarely go through with them.
Welcome to Bonehead.
All right, we're back from the credits. We're doing Cars. So our last episode.
Wait, we're doing what?
Cars.
Thank you. You
Oh.
just said it really. We're doing good.
Hold on.
I told you
Chad,
I've been doing heroin.
Chad, we're doing vroom vroom honk honks.
Heroin doesn't speed you up. That's cocaine. Heroin.
What have I been
slows you
doing? I've been
down.
licking the little blue things around the toilet bowl.
You need
around.
to.
What is
Bright
that
lights,
called?
big city. Watch it.
Aw, Charlie Sheen taught me everything I know about living.
You get busy living or you get busy dying.
So
Charlie
this-
Sheen
Death boat.
and Haley taught me everything I know about living. So this,
Go ahead.
no, Cars.
Cars. This is our second part about Cars. And
We
this one-
love Pixar. We love those movies. Nothing's better than the 3 Cars films. I mean, they talk about Toy Story 3. They talk about Ratatouille. They talk about the beauty that is Up and Wall-E. I say that's a bunch of horse shit. Cars 2,
I
when they're
disagree.
in Europe. Michael Caine.
I disagree, sir. Planes.
I never saw it.
Neither have I.
I've seen, oddly enough, I haven't seen Planes that was released in theater, but the direct to DVD sequel,
Yeah.
I've seen that one.
Is it good?
I mean, do you like talking planes?
No.
Because it's like the third or
I
fourth.
don't even like
It's a-
talking people.
It's the third or fourth best talking plane film I've ever seen.
Oh, well, with Soul Plane.
So we had so much enjoyment talking about cars and movies, we decided we were going
And
to talk
were
about.
we in a different location for that?
We were,
What-
and we haven't been invited back.
What do
Actually,
we
that's a
have to do?
lie. I believe you were invited back, and then somebody like, but if I do it at my place, I don't have to put on pants all the time.
I didn't put on pants for that episode.
Didn't he
Then
actually
Then
change?
he had to actually make the comment that normally after the show's off and we leave, he takes his pants off. And or takes his shorts off, and he doesn't know what to do when it's somewhere else. I believe this was the exact conversation.
I don't remember saying that, but I'm going to look at you and say that sounds like something I would say.
Haley
so
was
I'm
shaking
not going
her
to
head.
argue with you. Haley, you can speak.
I remember it too.
Did I say that?
Yeah,
Almost
'cause you-
verbatim.
They had
Yeah, you said
treats
I know-
at that other place. There's no treats
Yeah,
here.
no.
There's a
No.
pack of soy sauce. Who wants to split it?
Ugh. So anyway, cars and television.
Oh my God! How do they fit? The TVs have gotten the bigger, but I don't know they've gotten the bigger.
Well, if I learned anything from Ant-Man and the Wasp,
And I didn't
Hot
because
Wheels.
I haven't seen
I
it.
haven't seen it.
Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels. What
Hot
about
Wheels.
it?
Use Hot Wheels. Always use a Hot
The
Wheels.
problem is there's no motor in it, so even if they blow it up,
Or is there?
there's not.
No, there isn't.
You miniaturize a normal car until it's a Hot Wheel. It's a plot.
Well, why don't you just ruin the rest of
Yeah,
the world
no.
for us?
Okay, well, see what
So
happens.
there's no Santa Claus, there's no Easter Bunny. You don't get.
See, if I controlled space and time right now, a giant rabbit would appear behind Joe and stab him right now.
Oh, if you controlled space and time, everything'd be all Donnie Darko.
So anyway, we're going to talk about cars and television.
What?
And
How
there
did it
have
fit
been
in there.
In the history of television, there have been many historical figures in terms of cars that as prominent
Like George Washington.
Yes, I don't know.
He loved his '76 Pacer.
We did have a general. I'm trying to keep us on track
Thomas
here.
Jefferson loved his
I am
Mercedes.
trying to keep us on track. So we did have a general.
Cars didn't need tracks.
We had a general.
That's
General?
true. The General Lee.
Yeah, we're not allowed to talk about that
No,
show
we're
because it's
not.
racist.
This is hail. So
Shouldn't put that on that car.
Who wants to start the conversation?
Oh,
about
well,
cars?
no, well, you mentioned the General Lee already. I mean, and that's one of the things that we're going to run into, just like we did with cars and movies.
I actually don't have.
There are a lot of... Well, see, I would, but I automatically assumed that one was going to come up. And that's the problem we're going to run into. There are way too many. I mean, you could go back to My Mother in the Car, which had the completely fictitious
A lot of people
car.
come back to your mother in her car.
My Mother the Car was a short-lived sitcom about a person whose mother died and somehow came back as a car. I've never seen an episode. Do you know anything about My Mother the Car?
I wish you'd stop saying it because I want to say something.
I believe,
Come on, let's get into My Mother the Car.
I believe coaches.
Everybody has been in your mom in that car.
If I'm not mistaken, this will
That's not true, no.
just keep him going. Coaches Jerry Van Dyke was the star of
Yes,
My Mother the Car.
you're
So
absolutely
there was
right.
a dyke and his mom in a car?
Told you.
I said Van Dyke.
I don't think you did.
I
think
just
you
did. You know, I used to have a Van Dyke.
Yeah, you know what, though? You weren't successful with it.
Different than a goatee. I never could quite
But
figure
you're
out the
absolutely
physics.
right. It was the other Van Dyke.
I
whose
think that
name
joke's
forget.
funnier than you people acknowledged.
So,
No.
yes, pre-coach.
Don't want to
he
hear anything.
was
from
in a
you.
sitcom
He's
where...
dead now.
Yes, I know.
I would keep interrupting you to make it up to Rachel, who hates you now because you kept interrupting my question. This long, buddy, about how you're a D-bag and wouldn't let me answer the ghost question.
So let's talk about
So,
cars.
wait, no, I just want to jump back real quick. So anyway, in My Mother the Car, see, his mom comes back as a car, which would be like a ghost thing, and since Joe doesn't believe in that, I guess I'm the jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't, that's why that show didn't last.
All I heard
Jerry
was
Van Dyke was
Van
homeless.
Dyke, your mom, a car.
I do kind of favor him.
Your mom?
Anyway, what,
Him, my mother is female. Some of our
She
some
sure
of,
is.
Some of us have female mothers. Some
Hey,
of us.
Cartman and I have that in common.
so
That and I love a pie.
so who does want to talk about cars first? Do you, Joe? Do you want to go first?
I don't care who goes first. Honestly, the first one I want to talk about, because I didn't know where we were going to go, and I didn't. I thought about Dukes of Hazzard, and I was like, well, probably one of them will bring it up. And then I actually do wrestle with this. Was it? It's not really in vogue anymore. It's not cool. We're kind of.
You know what though? I think,
And that's a whole other episode of Bonehead that I don't even want to get into on this one. What are you going to say? And then let me finish my first one.
I was going to say, I do think though, what I will say is, I do think there are still a lot of people that enjoy the heck out of that show.
I think they do. I actually really enjoyed the movie that they made with Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah, I did. too.
And I
Which
actually
has-
think
and
when
they actually addressed the
Well,
issue.
yeah,
And they
which has
addressed
one
the
of the
issue.
best ways to address that
they
issue.
addressed that
in
issue
modern times.
of the flag on top of the car, and I thought that was the best way to
Yeah.
make fun of it and poke fun. And you're right. I think they did a good job
Yeah,
with
they
that.
handled it really well.
Right.
That movie does not get the credit that it deserves.
It's not a good movie, but it's not a bad movie, and it's
No.
entertaining. And
It's
actually, I
entertaining.
enjoy it more than I did the show.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to go back and watch them, even if you're a kid and you loved it, and you was like, oh, well, it's a good, yeah.
Once again, pointing out that James hates the director.
What?
Of
I do
Shakers.
not, I do not hate
Well,
the
that's
director.
because Super Troopers sucks. Now, back to mine.
Sorry, James.
No,
This
that's
is
fine.
not necessarily a narrative show, because when you start researching car shows, you get a lot of shows about how to make a car. You get comedians
Now
of
you do.
cars. You get all these other things. But this show, and I will stand by this choice, has been around since the 70s.
Okay.
Is Top Gear.
Okay.
Top Gear was in British television since the late 70s.
Uh-huh.
It did not become what it is today until, you had Clarkson and I'm sorry, I completely forgot everybody's name. Until you had Hammond, James May, and Jeremy Clarkson. But I really enjoy Top Gear. Of those three people, from that point of somewhere in the 2000s, it's right after 2001, 2002 that all three of them are there, up until Jeremy Clarkson slapped that guy and got fired, and they moved on to do their own show on Amazon, which isn't as much fun. What's it called? The World?
Mm-hmm.
Do you all know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I don't recall the name.
Have
of
you
it.
guys ever actually watched Top Gear with those three men?
Yes, I've seen a couple episodes of it.
They're almost brilliant television. And depending on what, not all of them are as good as the next, but some of them you can just watch over and over. It is hilarious. It is great. They go all over the world, and I just love it. And I actually, out of the three of us, probably like cars the most.
Yeah.
As far as vehicles, I enjoy them. I'm just too cheap to buy them. I have a fondness. My dad was a mechanic. I think Top Gear was a great show. It's not necessarily what this episode is about, but I wanted to throw it out as my first one.
Okay.
Because it has been around a long time. And
I didn't realize it had been around since the 70s.
Been around. It started out as a 30-minute magazine show on the BBC about cars.
Okay.
Much more like 60 Minutes is a magazine show. And then it evolved over time, depending on the host, who it was, till in the early 2000s. Why do I have to look up Jeremy Clarkson's name, even though I know it? Well, because it's late at night. Jeremy Clarkson was one of the producers with another person who said, it should be this.
Right.
And that's when it took off, and that's when they all got rich from it, and then the World Tour. It's the World Tour on Amazon. Not a bad show, just not as much fun. It's my friend Clay Sturgeon, if I doubt he's watching, but if he is, summed it up. We were having a conversation about it once, and he actually said, when it was on the BBC, you felt like they were getting away with something.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh no, he's right. You do. It was like they're being naughty.
Yeah.
And when they're on Amazon, well, who gives a shit? They gave them $100 million and told them to do whatever they wanted to do. It's not as much fun. Does that make sense to you too?
No, it makes sense.
But I really, really, even if you're not in the cars, go back. If you couldn't care less about whatever car they're going over that week, fast forward it. Fast forward it to the challenges, the different things they did. They've done two American versions. There's tons of versions throughout the world. Australia has its own version. Different countries have their own versions. They have for a long time.
Right.
So, yeah, there's two American versions, right? There's been two,
yeah,
correct?
The American version that I've seen, at least, was, I mean, it's an imitation.
It's an imitation, but it's not bad. Either version
is enjoyable.
It's enjoyable. Yeah. Either one's not bad. However, nothing will replace those three guys. Yeah. Thus is the reason why Amazon gave them the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want me to go next, or you
want? Yeah, hit it.
All right. So this is the only. I'm gonna just flat out say this is going to be the only big car in television that I'm going to talk about. And in my mind, with the exception of the Ecto-1 and the Real Ghostbusters, but of course I've really considered Ecto-1.
And I know we're doing movies, but I had to put
and in terms of cars that you would like to own, I'm like I said, I'm not a car person like Joe, but in terms of cars, I would like to own the Ecto-1.
You and I both have that though.
Yeah.
James would want a DeLorean, and you and I would want Ecto-1.
Ecto-1. Right.
Ecto-1's a close second. I mean, when I win the lottery and have stupid money.
But I am correct. Yeah. The two of us would want Ecto-1, and you would want a DeLorean. Actually, it's easier to get freaking DeLorean.
I want an Ecto-3. Is that the helicopter thing? The bicycle helicopter?
Yeah, I think that's Ecto-3. Because I think Ecto-3.
You don't even like heights.
No, I'm never going to use it. I'm just going to look at that. Got that. It's like, what's Bond's baby? His little plane.
His baby would be some sort of STD.
Anyway, yes. Go ahead.
No, so in terms of television, I think there is only one true iconic car that's been around since the 60s. The Batmobile.
I knew somebody else got it.
No, I've got the Batmobile on mine, so you do yours and I might add on.
Do you know the history of it?
I'll chime in on this one because this is the one I don't have a lot of research on. But I will say that this is the one part I do know. The 1966 Batman with Adam West and Burt Ward.
Yeah.
The car was a 1955 Lincoln Futura.
Yeah.
That was modified for George Barris. Bought the car for only $1.
It was a concept car.
Yeah.
It was a concept car in Italy, made in Turin, Italy.
I did not know that.
Turin, Italy. It was made in Turin, Italy, and they got a lot of attention for it because people loved the dome caps, which became famous because of Batman. But they showed it in Turin, Italy. It toured. They took parts of it. Showed up later in the Ford Galaxy.
Oh, really?
Yes. So this is one I actually did a ton of research on. George Barris himself, I'm going to bring up later because if there was a concept car or if there was anything, he shaped 1950s, 60s, and 70s television.
Right, he did.
So I'm going to talk about him in a little bit, but I'll let Che go ahead and finish. No. But yes, that is true. And do you know how much the car originally cost?
No, I don't.
To get to buy a Lincoln Futura concept car was available to you in 1954. 54 for the
that makes sense
low
because
cost,
it's always the year before.
Yeah, for the low cost of $250,000. To equate that to modern day, It was a $2,300,000 car.
That's insane.
Because every the
And he bought it for $1.
And the car constantly died on them in the
well, here's the funny part about that. They sold it to Barris for $1 plus quote unquote considerations.
Oh.
Barris had at that point was already famous for taking pieces of crap and making them famous.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm going to talk about him. He pops up in a couple of my other ones too. But they did it for that because they knew once Barris got his hands on it. And the backstory, do you have the backstory behind the Batmobile? Why he got to do the Batmobile?
I don't.
They had hired someone else to do it. And they said, we need the car in 3 months. The guy started to do it and said, there's just no way. There's no way I can give you a Batmobile in 3 months. There was only something like 6 weeks left. They called up George Barris because he had worked with Alfred Hitchcock and some other people on some films. And he said, yeah, I can do it. He said, as long as you get the funding. So he owned it.
Mm-hmm.
He never sold it to the company. He leased them that car. He paid $1 for it and leased it to them and constantly made money off of it till he died. He died recently.
Wow.
But it was his car. It's still.
So did they only
museum.
use the one during filming?
No.
No, there were several.
There were several. There was only one, quote unquote, real one. But he did plaster casts and all of that stuff and made fiberglass replicas. There were 3 originally, and then in the second season, he built a 4th. The 4th was copied illegally once, and he sued and won. But real quick, and then again, sorry to...
No, I'm glad you're doing this, because I was...
The other part about that is, if you want to own your own Batmobile, shortly before he passed away, because actually he had somehow conned his way into owning the likeness of the Futura.
Uh-huh.
And he wouldn't let Hot Wheels make one. He wouldn't let anybody make one. He lifted that about 2007, I think, and started licensing it again. In December of 2017, let me get the name of this company. Fiberglass Freaks, which is in Logansport, Indiana,
Uh-huh.
is selling replica Batmobiles.
What's the price?
They are still cheaper than what you would have had to pay for that Futura.
Well, we know who's the special effects we met. I forgot who it was. He did Pumpkinhead.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. I'm blanking on his name, and I've
Winston?
met him. No, he worked for Stan Winston. That's where he got his start. They later on did the Aliens afterwards in later movies. He actually was in between movies and paid his crew to help build his own custom Batmobile.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you remember that? We watched it. Yeah, he did the demonstration of that. I thought you were there for that.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reason why I didn't bring the Batmobile up for the movies is because, in my opinion, the television versions of the Batmobile are more iconic than the movie versions.
Well,
yeah.
it's a character.
Even in the Christopher Nolan one, the Tumbler, it's cool.
Yeah,
but it's not.
That's the one thing I understand why they did that.
Do you think it's because the car itself is interactive in that? I mean, I can remember being a kid, 6, 7, watching reruns.
Yeah.
And it was so cool because it was atomic turbines to speed. That means nothing.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And they're flipping the switches. And every time that car launched, you went through that atomic turbines to speed, all that stuff.
It's great.
And that was, as a kid, it was literally, you never get to see the Enterprise start up. I'm thinking about things I watched in reruns. You very rarely actually saw them start.
But you did see Spock do the Bat-Tusi.
Things happen.
Well,
But if you're watching this, Joe is now doing the, or if you're listening to it, Joe's doing the Batusi. If you're watching it, look away. Look away.
But
it's hard to.
no, I mean that was so iconic. And then when I was 9 years old, again showing how old I am, and Tim Burton's Batman came out, in that Batmobile, I was like, you cannot get a cooler car than that Batmobile, with the exception of Ecto 1. And then Batman the Animated Series came out, and I thought that version of the Batmobile was way cooler than Tim Burton's. And then, the fact that there is a whole episode about the Batmobile in Batman the Animated Series. I believe that episode's called The Mechanic, and it's all about Batman's mechanic.
Nothing is more iconic than the Batmobile from the 60s, Adam West and Burt Ward.
No, I'm not
show.
arguing that. But I'm just saying in terms of a car and
Even
television.
people will know what it is if they've of course it says Batman on the side of it.
Yeah.
But if I remove the Batman, I think people would know what that was.
Yeah.
Even if they've never seen the show.
No, I agree with you.
Well, do you think
It's in the
part of that
cultural
too
zeitgeist.
is, yeah, I was going to say, do you think part of that too is one of the reasons that Batmobile is iconic, the '89 version is iconic, and even the animated series is iconic is because they are Batman.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the Tumbler, you pull a Tumbler out and set it in the background of a Transformer movie, nobody's going to bat an eye. It's going to be like, oh, it's a thing.
I agree, and it fits fine for Nolan's movie,
Yeah,
and it fits
yeah.
fine for what Nolan was trying to do with his Batman. Everyone has their version of Batman. If we made a movie about Batman, it would be different than the other people's version. We all have a different perspective.
I mean,
It
I
fits
think
great.
the fact that Chad wants to use a gremlin as the Batmobile says something. But who am I to judge?
76 Pacers. Anyway, Pacer.
Bing.
Man, we really, seriously, there's nothing more iconic than that Batman.
No, I don't. I agree with you.
And here, I'll even argue another point, even if you said Tim Burton. I do not know of a company that probably exists, the world has everything, that specializes in just building you Tim Burton's Batmobile.
No, I was about to say, and I know about this game because my son loves it. It's at Gaddytown locally. But there's that entire game where the beginning of the Batman game, it's a driving game.
Yep.
You get to pick what version of the Batmobile you want to.
Right.
And my son, who has seen the Batman movie with Adam West, but never really watched the show, he literally, it's funny you said that, it's usually the classic Batmobile from the show, Tim Burton's, or the animated series.
Yep.
And it's got the Tumbler, it's got a bunch of other ones, but those are the three he goes to.
Absolutely. It makes complete sense.
No, yeah. I just don't think there's anything more iconic. So
Plus, it's
that was
just
kind of like
cool.
a trio of a tackle of a car. James, do you want to go one?
Yeah, and then you like I said you took one of mine, but I chimed in on most of it. I'm going to step back and actually talk about George Barris, because the other two I'm going to do, actually
Are
technically
you going to go
three.
behind the couch?
And by the way,
is-
I don't care how long this show goes. I got to get at least two more in.
No, that's fine. I'm going to get through this quickly.
I
So
have
George
so
Barris,
many jokes.
George
But
Barris
Chad is going to demonstrate how he puts two more in.
is Batmobile did the Batmobile. The reason I want to talk about George Barris is, like I said, if you were watching anything, movies, TV, or anything, he was the guy. Especially if you're on a tight timeline and had no money, you went to George Barris. And George Barris got started. His family owned a Greek restaurant. And he was working there. And they really couldn't pay him for a while and stuff like that. And he was college and all that stuff. And finally, what they quote-unquote paid him and his brother with was a 1925 Buick that didn't run well, didn't do anything. And he and his brother went, well, we'll figure out a way to trick it out. And that's exactly what they did. And they started driving this around. Well, people started noticing. He ended up out west, and he started designing cars that just using parts, using whatever he could find. Well, studio execs started to like him because they looked cool.
Yeah.
And they started coming to him to have him design their car, so their car didn't look like everybody else's car. He designed one for Zsa Zsa Gabor, famously a gold Rolls Royce with custom glasswork windows with flowers and all that stuff on the passenger windows.
That's called very ornate.
Yeah.
Yes, extremely ornate. You're correct.
Now it would be trashy.
But
No, it's hot.
one man's anyway.
One
Anyway,
man's hotness is another man's trashiness.
the studio execs, of course, eventually said, "Hey, can you do this for movies?" His first movie car was for High School Confidential. It spiraled from there. He worked on North by Northwest.
Yeah.
And what Hitchcock hired him to do was, he realized very quickly that when two cars hit together during this age and time, your bumpers will kill people.
Yeah.
And not like now where it's plastic. He hired him to say, I need Cary Grant to be able to wreck this car, bumper, but the car still run and all that stuff, because he wanted to spend money. He designed a soft bumper. And so that was one of his first major custom car things for Hitchcock. He did all the future cars in the H.G. Wells Time Machine.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Were cars that he had hanging out on his lot that he custom designed because he's bored. He modified the Dodge Charger for Thunder Alley. All of that stuff. He did the car for the car. So that's just some of his, but I wanted to talk about him because it leads to my next one I'm going to talk about. Probably the two, I'm going to do two quickly because they're from the same show. The Munsters Coach.
He did the Munsters Coach.
Yes.
And
Dragula.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for some people think those are the same car. They're not.
No.
The Dragula was the drag racer. It was Grandpa's drag racer that he used to race.
It was just the way he put it.
Yeah.
Grandpa's drag race.
Now,
Barris he used to race.
Barris.
Now, he didn't go get cheese in that.
Well, he did sometimes.
He
not garlic cheese.
He didn't pick up the diapers. He didn't go to the store worth a damn. But now, when he needed a race, he would take his what?
His Dragula.
Pinto.
Racer.
Damn it.
So, this is the true story behind this because this is a funny story to me. So the Dragula is a coffin.
Right.
Yeah.
That is an actual coffin.
Mm-hmm.
The true story behind that was Barris didn't actually, helped design it, but he didn't build it. And the reason he didn't build it was, at the time, in California, it was illegal to buy a coffin without a death certificate.
Well, that's just...
So...
He took it to race.
So...
They was like, you need to get some eggs. He said, can I raise somebody to get them eggs?
Barris realized very quickly, he's like, I'll help with the design, but I'm not touching this. Richard Corks worked for Barris.
Dick Corks.
Anyway, he...
You know what Dick Cork wouldn't do? Race Grandpa. He had a car that was for racing.
You know what else Dick Cork didn't have? Kidneys. Go on.
He went to a funeral
dick?
home very carefully.
Hello,
He went
Richard.
to, actually, there's a scene in Caligula where they do that. and
Yeah,
they cut the guy's gut.
Dick Cork.
Anyway,
Buster
he
Cherry.
went to a North Hollywood funeral home to get a coffin. Of course, they said that's illegal, sir. So he paid them in cash under the table, and they agreed to leave. At the time, these were evidently a thing. A huge fiberglass coffin out back, a large one, for it to be stolen in the night. Barris, again denying most knowledge of this, okayed the crew to go out after midnight to steal a coffin. So already this is a cool story to me because a coffin was stolen at midnight to make something for the Munsters. That's better than that episode was. So they actually made it. It was, like I said, it was illegal, paid in cash. It featured a 350 horsepower actual functioning. This thing was fully functional. They built it from the ground up. Ford Mustang V8, 4-speed stick shift, authentic Firestone racing slicks mounted on custom 10-inch Raider steel wheels. It was a completely functioning car, which, by the way,
Sounds
ended
like
up...
try to do something with that. Would it be racing?
The front end of the car, though, weighed quite a bit because they used an actual marble headstone. And it was a marble headstone that said Grandpa Munster's birth date of 1397, death questionable. So that was an actual thing. The funny story about that is it did fully function. You could drag race in it because it's for racing. The other part...
for picking up your denture cream?
The other part about this, though, is do you know where the car ended up? Because Barris didn't own this one.
Rob Zombie's video.
No, it was a replica. It ended up...
Lying sack of shit.
They mounted it in one of the early Planet Hollywoods from the ceiling. It took iron cables to hold this thing above somebody's dinner. That particular Planet Hollywood closed. And then the Volo Auto Museum...
I only know YOLO.
The Volo Auto Museum, which I believe
race.
is in Ohio, bought it and fully restored it. You can still go see it there. Look up Volo Auto Museum. You can still see it, and they restored it, and it runs again.
Cool.
Let's go do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't let you start or nothing.
Shut off the cameras. We're going to Volo. We're going to race.
Now, the Munsters car that most people know from the show, was in the show most often, was the Munsters coach. It was just the thing they drove around in the most. That was actually made from 3 separate Model Ts to get the wheelbase that long. Because it was meant to look like a hearse. It had a 133-inch frame to support the car. Ford V8, meant for a Cobra. and tin chrome-plated carburetor. Again, a fully functioning car. Barris did work on publicly. The other one he did not, but that one he did design. He wanted it to be monstrous, so that is why it is long. And it was his intent to kind of throw everything at it he could. So he made it look like a hearse. There were a lot of features that functioned on it. There was the organ that actually, he replaced the tailpipe with the organ that came up in the front.
Now, Chad, what did I and that car have in common?
No, this organ worked.
Oh!
So all of that, and again,
a huge organ.
If you quit corking it.
The thing about, again, the reason I wanted to go back to George Barris, because he did work on the Batmobile, he worked on these, but what I think is cool and separates him from so many of what we would see today is that these were all fully functioning cars.
Yeah.
You could get in them, start them, and drive them.
Ain't none of that CGI Bumblebee horse shit.
No. If he built a Bumblebee, it would have killed Wiki every time.
And would the world be a less of a place?
No.
Only for
people who love
Wikis.
Yeah.
I love holes. What's your next car? What's your next car, Joe?
Okay.
Dick corking holes. All right. My next car is... I just think it's cool.
Okay.
James' wife and I have talked about this car several times. It's not through every season. It's not. It's in one episode of one classic show.
Real quick. Stop talking to my wife. Go ahead.
But wouldn't you love to have a Canyonero?
Oh, yeah, well, of course. That's iconic.
The Simpsons Canyonero.
I would love to have a Canyonero.
Yeah.
A lot of the mine on here is like, I don't really want to talk about this show. I don't really want to talk about that show. Why can't I have a Canyonero? Or the Homer?
The entire song, yeah, I was going to say the entire song for Canyonero about how it uses 16 gallons of gas for a mile. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's from a simpler time when we didn't care about oil.
Canyonero, Chad. You have a Canyonero.
I do?
Well, you have that thing with the people. We're now parents. You have an SUV.
I have an SUV, but it's not a Canyonero.
You wish it was a Canyonero.
I kind of do.
But
you have a minivan.
I do.
I have an SUV now.
No, you have a minivan.
I do not.
No, it's fine.
It's an SUV.
I'm sure it is.
It's an SUV. It's minivan adjacent.
Minivan adjacent.
Whatever
That's
helps.
what I told his wife.
Whatever helps
I'm
you
not
sleep
sleep.
at night.
You know, I'm not fixing your air conditioner anymore.
I already paid a guy to do it.
Again?
It's not. The issue was not the thing.
I love
We
how
have
we're
a
not talking
broken-
about.
Well, this is a car issue. This is a broken. I have a broken agitator. I'll tell you later.
Okay.
I don't care.
So a Canyonero.
I'm sorry. I
In
just
one episode.
No, it's
And I was actually in 2 episodes, isn't it?
I was gonna say, but I actually agree about the Homer.
the Homer.
I would own the Homer.
I would own the Homer as well.
Put the kids in the back. Don't have to listen to them.
It's got a cup holder where you can actually put the big 48 ounces in it.
Oh, 52, baby. You gotta have a 52.
50. I can't. That's too much.
Oh.
Too much.
You lie.
TMI.
You lie. I'm setting you off for 5
And with
years
that
life.
dick
A fair
cord.
chance.
Yeah.
Those are
That's my boy. Keep
Okay.
going. I've got
Well,
several
I'll keep going on with the animation, and I'll go back way into the 80s. Let's talk about a special cartoon from the 80s about a car that transformed. What would that car show be
You're
called?
Go Bots.
You're doing
No,
Turbo Teen,
I'm
aren't you?
totally doing Turbo
Turbo
Teens.
Teen. Did
I
they,
knew it
ever
wasn't
name,
going to transform.
did they name what car that is? What car he turns into?
I'm going to get there.
Okay.
I never watched this teen who
So
was
Turbo
the-
Teen,
was the Turbo.
It was a cartoon from. It actually, it honestly, it actually debuted a week before Transformers.
What?
Yeah. It only lasted 13 episodes because it is terrible. So,
But I
I'm
watched,
glad you
know
could have
what's
brought
funny?
it up.
What's funny is you said it only lost 13 episodes, but I remember watching it for about 3 years straight when it was on
Yeah.
Cartoon Express.
so
No, it's a Cartoon Express.
So
Right.
before we get into what the Turbo Teen actually, the car that actually was, what was the
Did you have
Turbo
to say
Teen?
teen? Every
Yeah.
time I hear Turbo, I want you to finish it with a different word.
The plot of Turbo Teen was it was a teenager named Brett Matthews who swerves off the road into a thunderstorm.
Brett, doesn't really. It sounds
Yeah.
like an actual person's
Yeah,
name.
no, that was the one disappointing part about this whole thing.
It's not like Jim Slade was driving one
and he didn't
night,
even have a card-themed name.
and all of a sudden, Grandpa was racing, but he ran it off the road.
But Brett Matthews,
Johnny Ford.
he crashes into a
In his
laboratory.
Dracula.
He drives right into a laboratory and happens to
As
park
one does.
and parks his car right into the middle of a molecular transfer array.
Hold on, this looks like a good place. I don't see a meter.
And is
Throw it up.
and is fused with his car.
Do they
therefore-
even have it on the cars? Don't even do that anymore, do they?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Some of them, I guess.
Anyway, so as a result of being hit by this ray, he is now fused with his car.
Confused with his car?
Yeah, so I'll get more.
Sorry, Johnny. I thought you were a Ford.
The car itself. This whole show was created for one reason only.
To sell that damn toy?
No, it's a ripoff.
Oh.
Knight Rider. The car is an exact duplicate of Knight Rider. It is a combination of a Chevrolet Camaro and a Pontiac Trans Am. It was specifically a ripoff of Knight Rider, which was because the car looked very similar to Kit, which Knight Rider was at the top of the charts at that time. So
That's not Rider Kids.
So his
One
girlfriend was
One Hasselhoff to save the world.
as Turbo Teen, his girlfriend, his mechanic best friend, and aided by the dog Rusty, they fight crime and solve mysteries.
You don't want Rusty near a car.
The villain was an unknown.
It's true.
Yeah, but the villain was an unknown Dark Rider, who was who drove a monster truck and was voiced by Frank Welker, the famous Frank Welker.
Never heard of him.
Now known as the voice of Scooby.
Scooby. But no, let's talk about his actual powers because this is the funniest part about
Turned
the
into a
Hot
car.
water, or was it just any water?
he transforms into a car when exposed to heat and transforms back when he gets cold.
So when he gets excited, he turns into a car.
So this is a
And then when he gets afterwards, when post coitus, and they turn on the fan because it's all hot. Not that you ever have this experience.
you're getting close to one of so
He turns back into a person. It's like, I thought I was totally doing this hot Trans Am, and here's a guy.
I would strongly encourage.
Does this happen to you, or is
actually,
am I the only one?
there's actually a montage on YouTube about all of the different times he transformed into the car. I highly suggest you go check it out because these are hysterical.
Are they going the way I would be going with it?
So here's one example. Close. Someone raises a thermostat in his bedroom and he transforms while he's sleeping.
Look, did you see his tailpipe?
And he transforms back just in time. His mother knocks on the door, and he wakes, and he's this car, and you actually see him as a car. Amazingly, his room is the size of a car, a Trans Am, where he can drive into the bathroom, jump into the shower, and take a cold shower to turn back.
You know
into
what's
Brett
funny?
Matthews.
You
know what's funny about
don't
this?
make no sense. Have you seen
You know
my
what's funny
bathroom
about
door?
this?
It
Yeah.
don't fit a Trans Am worth a damn.
No,
Was his bed already a race car bed? Because that'd been
no,
hilarious.
it's a normal bed, and the car actually fits perfectly into the bed underneath the covers, and he actually walks out, goes into the bathroom, and somehow turns on the shower with no hands.
Haley,
Don't you mean he drives out, Chad?
Haley,
Yeah,
you like
true.
cars and men. Would you want a car that transformed into a man or a man that transformed into a car?
No.
Okay, then.
But then there's one
I have a
instance.
hard time finding a lover.
There's one instance where he's hid the criminals on the loose, and he has to change into the car. So, amazingly, his girlfriend has a cup of hot fudge on her, and he throws it on and changes it back into a car. And then how does he get transformed back? Somebody accidentally spills a cup of lemonade on his hood.
Hey, the last time a lady threw some hot fudge on me, we had the sexy time.
Well, you did. She was disappointed.
I just sit there, got a spoon, and ate it right off my chest hair. God, this is so sexy. I've never felt sexier than I do right
Do you
now.
know that-
Except for that time I went
Do you
racing with Grandpa in Dracula. He's like, I ain't picking up them eggs.
Have you ever seen there's Adult Swim of all things on Robot Chicken actually did one skit which if you never saw Turbo Teen wouldn't make any sense.
I
But,
just want to call him Turbo Dick. I don't know
I
why.
don't know why either.
but it made fun of Turbo Teen. It didn't even intro it. It was like, this is making fun of Turbo Teen. It was just a cutaway gag. And it's literally him walking out and he turns into a car and then these guys steal the wheels off the car while he's parked outside. And then some people, like some homeless people, end up having sex in the back seat and all that stuff. And when he transfers back because they stole the wheel, his arms are gone. And he's screaming in pain. And he's just screaming, kill me, kill me, kill me.
That's awesome.
So
that sounds way better than the shit you just
Oh, it's awful. I highly recommend getting on YouTube and looking up Turbo Teen.
All right, next.
Do they have a theme song?
Oh, they do, and it's awful.
Turbo Teen.
And if you want to
Don't
truly
steal
see,
his tires.
if you want to see something truly horrific, the transformation scene of him into a car is absolutely awful.
It's animation. How do you screw that up?
They did, and it's awful.
After the show, we'll show you.
We'll show you. Okay, James.
Joe.
Why do your both names have to start with J?
It doesn't start with Judge. It's James.
I don't know how to pronounce that.
It's not Junes.
This isn't
Haynes.
Sesame Street.
The
What's your
J
car?
is silent.
Or is it? Am I
Haynes.
Junes?
Oh, that's a good car. Oscar the Grouch's car. That's really
Haynes Hamas.
All right. Well, since I covered 2 at 1 and you already stole the Batman book, I'm going with the final one that I have to give credit to Barris for. That'd be the Beverly Hillbillies. It's been a Filmways television production.
Which does kind of look like Dracula.
It does a little bit.
Well, here's the story behind that. Again, he got approached saying, we need a car that hillbillies would drive to Beverly Hills. That literally is what they told him. So he literally was just wandering around, and he ended up at a, which, by the way, I'm sure this was a hard job, but wouldn't it be just cool to be like, just get in a car and drive till you find something that you think, well, that'll be what I use, and that's what he did. He ended up finding an old car. It was a car at a feed store after being challenged to find the car. It was a 1921 Oldsmobile Model 43A, which at the time was considered, at the time it was made, was considered a mid-level car. It had a massive 43 horsepower and 4 cylinders. It was, like I said, considered a mid-grade car at the time, but it was a car. But as many cars were that were made in the 1920s,
post-coitus,
post-World War I, pre-World War II, as World War II came,
World War II were the same.
A lot of people would cut the back end of them off and turn them into a truck. And that's what this feed store had done. It ran okay. He bought it off of them for almost nothing. So he took it, and really the only thing he did was put a lot of ropes and stuff on
and
it.
the couch in the back.
Well, he put on, and that's just, he extended the base.
Was there a couch?
It was a rocking chair. Granny's rocking chair. But, and then it did have a seat next to it that was Ellie Mae's seat. He did all the work on that.
Elvis.
Who didn't?
Nah, I'm joking. I totally buggered him.
Yeah, I was going to say. And he was dead at the time. But it still counts, I guess.
Everybody's got to take their shot.
So anyway, he found it. He had the rear had been removed. He added a rear platform and then added the rocking chair on top of the platform, but then had Ellie Mae's seat. So it wasn't originally a truck; it was a car. The other part about it was that he did add a lot of the ropes and stuff to make it look more junky.
Yeah.
But he actually says it's one of the cars he did the least amount of work on that enjoyed the most amount of screen time.
Huh.
Because it was in every episode. The other side of it is, though, and
how many episodes?
Enough,
how many episodes of Beverly Hillbillies?
5,672.
It was actually.
I had at least I bet there was at least 200 episodes.
And I was about to say, and it never dropped out of the top. The season it was quote unquote canceled, ended, whatever you want to say. I think it was technically canceled, and then they ended it. It fell to 13.
The thing is about that, there's a whole story about that. Was it CBS?
Yeah, they wanted to go away from
They canceled all rural shows because they had that Green Acres, Petticoat Junction.
What was it called? It was something they referred to it as the Trinity. It was a guy that produced them.
But yeah, and then but what they replaced it with all in
Sheldon Leonard. Sheldon Leonard.
But then they replaced them with All in the Family and
They wanted more urban.
Yeah.
Now, the funny part about this, and the reason I have to bring it up, is the Beverly Hillbillies had their own Dracula-like episode. Oh, yeah. Jethro, actually, there's a few episodes.
He was a double alt spy.
He could do his Gozentas all the way up to 6. See, one Gozentas 1 once, one Gozentas 2 twice, Won Gazintas three times. Gazintas, look it up. It's true.
And Haley's checked out behind the camera. Keep going.
He had a 3rd grade education.
She's going into the cooler.
The other part about it, though, was so he got into drag racing. If you read, Barris does have a book talking about all the cars he made. It's pretty interesting. The hillbilly drag racer was actually harder to make because he found a similar car, but then built a drag racer body onto it and souped up the engine to where it was actually coming out. And you can see footage of that. I'm sure if you Google drag racing Beverly Hillbillies, you'll see the car. But what was really funny about it was the front of it he made look pristine like a drag racer would, even though it was this old car. It was the back of it that he put pots and pans on and all this stuff. So he actually has this back place where the pipes come up and the back looks junky. But I think that gets to the point. That's what's wrong with television today. When was the last time? Well, if Walking Dead had a good drag racing scene, wouldn't you tune in? Like the governor comes back and he's got this souped up thing made out of zombie bones.
I agree. I mean, I don't think Andy Lincoln would be leaving if they let him drag race more.
Yeah, and it's got
spoiler alert.
It's got to be a custom thing too, because these shows, there were always drag racing episodes.
I always thought The Sopranos was missing something.
Batman surfed and had his car. That's what the shows are missing today.
Breaking Bad could have been the greatest show on earth.
I mean, you know, modern.
If Jesse had just dragged race.
There's only one real modern car in television that's famous, in my opinion.
And
Supernatural.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, there's only one. There's only
it's
one.
a '67 Impala.
Yeah.
Well, the car's a character in and of itself. I mean, there's even an episode where he talks about where it got destroyed. If you haven't seen the 4th season,
he rebuilt it. Yeah.
And he rebuilt it even down to the flaws that they had created when they were kids.
Yeah. And the whole what was supposed to have been the final episode of Supernatural is technically about the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you look at that. So, I agree with that. But all joking aside, the fact that Barris did all these cars for all these shows that we can look back on. He worked on Mannix, Mother of the Car. He did work on that. He, but if you look at 60s and 70s television, any car that looks special, odds are it either came from Barris's workshop or came from his competitor.
So, I have a bunch on here, and honestly, I'm not partial to any of them. The Fall Guy drove an '82 GMC Sierra.
I was saying about the Fall Guy the other day, because is that the one that has the unknown stunt? Was that unknown stuntman?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, he was the Fall Guy.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The unknown
he played
stuntman
Clay.
was
Yeah, played Colt Seavers. Magnum PI drove a '78 Ferrari.
Yep.
And the 18 drove a GMC Vandura.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good. Go ahead. Who's yours?
That's it.
That's it. I really blew it all on Top Gear.
As a kid,
as a kid,
the 18 van was iconic to me.
It is, but there's a ton of vehicles that I like, but they're really kind of in episodes. There's nothing. Yeah. Actually, I probably should have talked about Supernatural because I would have inherited 68 Impala. I love that 67 Impala.
Yeah.
The people who redo them, they're beautiful. I would love to have one to drive around.
But, real quick, before Jack goes on the next one,
but
I think you're right. I think that's one of the things, too, because you talk about, and I was saying about iconic vehicles, does seem to be a lot more, because we mentioned Knight Rider, we mentioned Dukes of Hazzard.
But I don't have attachment to those shows now.
Well, but I kind of do. One of my first toys that I thought literally I loved, and my brother destroyed it, Blood Feud, was one of the first talking toys was the talking Knight Rider where you push the thing. Yeah. If anybody has one and they're reasonable with it, I'd love to own it again. So I have an attachment to the kit.
Arrested Development.
Which was voiced by Mr. Feeney from Boys in Me World. Boys in
Me World.
Boise meets World.
Chad's a happy guy.
Nobody gives a damn about Idaho.
No. Chad's a happy guy when he's got Boys in Me World. It's raining men. Hallelujah. I see some peanut.
The other side of that, though, was I was saying about
plural for penises.
I was saying about iconic because we're doing cars, but I was saying about it. There used to be way more shows about because I was thinking
it doesn't happen as much now. Chad's right. I think it's Supernatural.
There's no more car.
But I was thinking about it because we were doing cars, and I wanted to bring this up, and now it's in my head. I'm going to Airwolf. I mean,
I thought about it too.
There were iconic modes of transportation. Airwolf was And Airwolf made no sense. We only made this one helicopter, and all the plans were destroyed, and somehow John Michael Vincent stole it, and he's not going to let us use it to destroy the world.
Isn't that technically the plot for Captain America?
Captain America's a person, though. You got the biology.
It doesn't matter. James is right. We don't care anymore. And I think one of my reasons for this is because all cars look the same.
Yeah.
If you see a Honda Accord, a Toyota Camry, and a Hyundai Sonata, and you didn't, let's say you hadn't been seeing cars for 10 years, you'd been like, I don't know, they're all
Pull
the same.
all the stuff off of them.
Pull all the badging off of them. They all look the same. One SUV looks like another SUV, looks like another SUV.
You're talking about the difference.
There is no art to it.
The only thing I can think that's
Functionality.
kind of different that I've seen in any cars is it the Cube that has a one window side that does this, and there's not a metal bar.
But what part of this generation wants to look at that? They're concerned about hybrids, fuel mileage, saving the earth, an '82 Sierra GMC that looks really cool. Nobody gives a shit about that.
That's what I'm
anymore.
saying, though. I mean, literally, when the only thing that I can think of off the top of my head is if I wanted one car that people would look at that aren't car people and say, "Oh, that's different," it would be what the Cube, because it's got that
probably
one glass, all glass side or whatever. That's it.
They do make some cars. Dodge makes a Challenger that's cool looking, and they do, but there's very few of them. Nobody cares.
Well, and it's
what's the last show that was based on maybe Viper or something?
I was going to say Viper. That was the only one that comes to mind. Is Viper.
I mean, you had, it's horrible. Look this up though; it did happen. You had the two Knight Rider shows that had nothing to do with Hasselhoff. You had the one where it's the ghost trapped in the car thing.
Yeah,
I never saw it.
It was I saw one episode and I'm like, they're doing. And then you had Team Knight Rider, where it was in the past there was once a time when one man could handle it all. Now we have to develop a team of, and it was like there was one that was a van, one that was a Jeep, one that was It was terrible. It was terrible. So yeah. Anyway,
Let him go for the last one.
Is it Tron?
And mine has a really
Is it the Tron?
For
dog?
me.
Is it a Tron car? Is it Tron? Is it Tron? Tron?
No, it's not Tron.
I'm going with.
When we finished the Cars movies episode and we said we were going to do a TV one, this is actually the one that hit me right off the bat. I said, this is the one I'm going to do. Right off the bat. It is a story about a man accused of a crime that he did not commit.
Oh my God.
Do you know what it is?
Keep going.
No, what is it?
I don't know.
Is it the Incredible Hulk?
No, it is not the Incredible
It's not going to be the car that picks him up at the end of the thing. Joe, sad walking away music.
I am, of course, talking about the famous Johnny Bago.
Are you talking about Renegade?
No, Johnny Bago. That is the name of the show. Johnny Bago.
It was actually produced by Robert Zemeckis, right?
That was. I'm getting there.
Oh, I'm so
no,
sorry.
it's
I
okay.
didn't mean to spill
I thought you were
your-
talking about. I thought you were talking about Renegade and his buddy, the Native American that drove a Winnebago and helped him solve crimes.
No.
Look it up.
Renegade
that was
starring
called-
Lorenzo
That was
Lamas.
called Racist RV.
Renegade was Lorenzo Lamas.
Oh, just because it's owned by a Native American that's racist now? See, look at him being racist toward Native
Why
Americans.
don't you stop? What were you saying?
Anyway, so
Haley, you good?
Native
Check
American
I
can't own a
remember-
Winnebago.
well, I remember nothing about
Bigot.
Johnny Bago, and then I looked it up, and I just realized how important Johnny Bago is to me because of all the people that were behind the scenes making it. So yes, it was produced by Robert Zemeckis. The first episode was written and directed by Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, he actually directed that?
Yes, he directed the first episode. But it was
When
created
did this come out?
1993.
Okay.
It only lasted 8 episodes. It was a summer replacement series that did not get picked up.
Oh, just like
And-
Nearly Departed.
Yeah, and if you look at it today, it gets amazing reviews. People still on IMDb, it's an 8 out of 10.
Have you found it? Can you get
There are some amazing copies of it on YouTube.
Okay.
Like really great versions of the first 4 episodes. The rest are really bootlegged and hard to watch, but the first 4 episodes, you can find amazing copies.
Does
of
it
on
hold
YouTube.
up 25 years later?
It still holds up, in my opinion.
1990. I don't remember this at all.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
So not only was it created by Robert
Too
Zemeckis,
busy watching.
it was also created by Jeffrey Price and Peter Seaman.
Evening Shade.
But do you know who?
Wait, really?
The team of Robert Zemeckis,
Richard Cork, you can't do anything but that name. You just let go by.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Is it just too
sorry.
easy?
I was trying not to be salty. Now talk about your semen.
No, so Robert Zemeckis, Jeffrey Price, and Peter Seaman. That creative team also
And
did.
it's Peter.
I know. That's why I said you.
Why isn't it just pecker jizz?
Hold on. No,
Hey, I'd like to introduce you to my friend. His name is Cock Juice.
this trio.
Coming this fall.
Coming this fall is Cock Juice. Pecker Jizz.
But this Haley's losing over there.
Now
Haley
we're
is going to
we
go.
just made this episode R-rated.
But the trio
Now
actually.
I'm backing up.
The trio actually.
Watch out for Pecker Jizz.
Oh my God! I'm never gonna get this out.
No, now you know what it's
You
like.
can't get it out. It stays for shit. That's Bill Clinton.
The trio actually created my favorite movie of all time, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, really?
They are the ones who wrote the screenplay, and they've actually the team of Price and Seaman. Actually,
What is the price of semen?
They also wrote.
What's the shape of water?
Oh, it actually depends on, I mean, if you have kids, daycare, all that stuff, it's pretty high.
Oh, semen's pricey,
They've
buddy.
actually
And if you
wrote-
put it in the wrong person, you'll pay for it forever.
But they've actually wrote several popular films. One of the more popular examples is they wrote Ron Howard's The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. But it was also produced by Frank Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
It stars Peter Dobson. He's in The Frighteners. He's the husband of the
Oh, the D-bag.
the D-bag. The theme song was written by one Jimmy Buffett.
Oh.
Here is a
Why
line.
would I know? Why would I know this James Buffet?
You know what you don't want a buffet of?
Me.
He likes
Pecker
hamburgers.
Jizz.
Me.
gotta stop.
Everything is salty.
No, but here's
Peter Seaman's been here.
All these flavors, and I
Left
choose
his
to be
mark.
salty.
Here's a line from the Jimmy Buffett theme song. I guess that's friggin' that. Like an anchovy to an alley cat, Johnny Bago is going to have a stay a little further down the Lost Highway.
That guy sure does
But
wax
That
philosophically.
son of a.
Of a sailor.
But like I said, the first episode's directed by Robert Zemeckis. Episode 3 or 4 is actually directed by Frank Marshall.
Okay.
So there is a lot of star power behind this movie.
Frank Marshall produced
Gosh.
like the for other people Jurassic Park, a lot of Spielberg films. He actually directed
Arachnophobia.
Arachnophobia. I think he directed Alive, the ones where the plane crashes and they have to eat their
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's based on a true story.
The true story of the soccer team, wasn't it?
It was a soccer team, and back to Peter Seaman.
Yeah. Oh,
I just
anyway, the show is about
I bet you want to get back to it.
Yeah, the show's about a small-time mobster who goes on the run from the
Can't
mob
wait.
who's trying to kill him. His cousin, he just gets out of jail for 5 years for a crime he didn't commit, who his cousin framed him for. He meets up with his cousin. His cousin supposedly sets him up for a blind date. And basically it ends with another killing, and the killing is the son of the mob boss of New York.
not the son of a son of a son of a sailor. Brandon Williams.
Wait
is the
one
son of a
second.
bitch.
I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I love you all like brothers, but the first time you framed me, I ain't coming back.
But that's one of the best comedy moments is that he's so dumb. Johnny Bago is not a smart man. He is dumb as hell, and the show just eats that up. And that's one of the things I love about it is the main character is an idiot. And he's being tracked by an FBI agent who also just happens to be his insane ex-wife.
I told you, you leave that semen in the wrong place, and it'll track you down. You'll live with that for the rest of your life.
But why is his name Johnny Bago? That actually is not his name.
Because he's in Winnebago, and his name's Jack.
He drives. He eventually through episode 1. I'm not going to go look up the season premiere of Johnny Bago. It is fantastic. But he ends up in a Winnebago. The Winnebago is called the Traveling Timberdoodle.
Quick, boys, to the Timberdoodle.
Did we get enough semen for the Timberdoodle? We're having a Timberdoodle later tonight, and I want to make sure that we got enough semen to come around.
But I
Go
just want
around.
another thing is another
You
reason
don't even
why
know
this,
if you're coming or going.
No.
another reason why this show is great is you go and whack and watch it. Go whack and watch it. Oh my
Watch
god!
Yes!
Haley's over. Haley's touchdown.
Haley, you can whack and watch it later. You can whack and watch it all. You're a grown person.
But anyway,
Yes, you were whacking and watching your Timberdoodle.
there's several great.
Now, when you get a Timberdoodle,
Now, is there an episode where he has to wax the
be
Timberdoodle?
sure not to whack and watch it too hard. You want to cup the doodle and hold the timber firmly.
Yeah, we're R-rated this
The
episode.
doodle and the timber should be The timber's fur.
Well, we hope.
It's mahogany fur. Why am I doing this?
You know what's amazing is I wrote this stuff out and I'm like, only thing I thought he would make fun of is Peter Seaman. I was wrong.
You said Timberdoodle, and then you started talking about whacking it, and then poor Haley lost her damn mind.
Hold on, it gets better.
Oh, keep on
God.
with the Timberdoodles.
Can it really?
So there's a lot of amazing character actors as you watch some of the episodes. Denise Crosby is in an episode.
I love her Timberdoodle.
A bald, he actually did not wear his toupee for this. Rip Taylor is the mayor of a town.
What?
Rip Taylor.
There's a little girl in the same episode as Rip Taylor and Denise Crosby who would actually go on to be, I forgot her name. I think Elizabeth Moss, the lady from the lady from Handmaid's Tale and Mad Men.
Mm-hmm. She did a migraine commercial that I always think about in my mind.
Oh, she did, didn't she? I forgot
you
about the
remember?
migraine. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's so serious.
I have a headache.
Talking about her Timberdoodle.
And since we brought up Super Troopers earlier, let's talk about Marion Ramsey, who plays. She is in the Police Academy. She's the lady who can't talk very loud. She's in an episode.
Hooks.
Yes, Hooks. Thank you.
Today, Hooks. Today.
If you all looked him up, you would go, "Oh, that guy, Richard Fleck."
Dick
He is an
Fleck.
amazing character actor. He's been in several episodes of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Another reason why I like this is several episodes. There's one episode where he runs into Elvis
Yeah.
in his travels, and it's all about, is it Elvis? Is it really not Elvis? But one of the best parts of the show is the mob always sends a hitman out to try to kill Bago as he's traveling the country in his Winnebago.
He's a Winterbago.
Here's some of the examples of the
Whacking his
villains
Timberdoodle.
that I loved in the show. Frankie Five Belches, which was actually played by Richard Fleck. He would talk and he just kept belching. Anyway,
Brilliant writing.
Vic the Pick and Tommy the Trunk Testosterone. But
Why is there so much
You know what would have kept that show on the air?
male phallic imagery and references?
You know what would have kept that show on the air longer?
what's that?
Is if in like episode 8, right before it got canceled, what he has to do is he has to turn his Winnebago into a drag racer.
And the final episode.
He races and he ain't going to go get. Forget it.
The final episode
I
I
can't
actually
talk.
want to see and I couldn't find a good enough copy to actually sit through it because it was so bad. That last episode is called Johnny Saves the World, and I don't know what it's about, and I would like to see it.
Do you think he saves the world?
I doubt it. He is such an idiot.
This has made me think about two other vehicles I will mention. One is a car, but it's animated, and the other is not a car, since I mentioned Airwolf earlier. The non-car is the boat from Riptide.
I honestly thought when you said boat, I'm like, oh god, he's going to bring up Thunder in Paradise.
No, nobody wants to bring up Thunder in Paradise.
Thunder in Paradise is a great show. Chris Lemon's only contribution.
Riptide, for those that don't know, is about 3 Vietnam buddies
We've talked about Riptide
who live on a
before.
boat, you see, and one of them builds robots, and he's a geek one.
Does anybody crack a fart? Because that would be hilarious.
And they have to solve crimes.
Never mind.
They solve
Yeah, I
crimes.
got it.
The other one I want to bring up that's animated, and I'm just like, I want this car because it's so nonsensical. I want the other Ghostbuster car. The Filmation one that can fly for some reason.
Oh, if I could get one of those packs, you just pull shit out. And I need a gorilla to walk me around with me
You
as
need
well.
Tracy. His name was
His
Tracy.
name was Tracy. He
Tracy
had the
Jr.
hat.
technically, because he was the son of the original Tracy, who was played by
Bob
Burns.
Bob Burns.
So so we need the Ghostbuster animated car.
We're getting a heart out right now.
Oh, I know.
We're getting a heart out.
Sorry we didn't bring up Knight Rider or
Dukes of Hazzard,
General Lee.
Generally, there's a lot of popular. We just don't care.
Yeah,
I guess.
Well, I was about to say, oddly enough, real quick,
There's
I mentioned
not
Barris
real
earlier.
quick.
Barris worked on Knight Rider. He helped design the Knight Rider car. So in some way we did. Do check out Barris's book if you love films and cars. It's well worth your read.
And seriously, check out Johnny Bago, because that was one of the biggest surprises. Because I was going to bring it up because
What's it called Timber Dumpling again?
Timberdoodle.
Timberdoodle. The traveling
I had a
Timberdoodle.
timber dumpling the other night,
But
and that's
no.
where you do a little tickling.
I was going to bring it up
I thought
because
that was a Tuscaloosa dumpling.
Now you think that, but you have to get a little Memphis mouthwash to get that going.
I was going to bring it up as a joke, and then I actually watched it and go, damn, it's actually entertaining.
Mm.
And it's one of those shows that it's, in my opinion, it should have been in the Hidden Gems. That's how good it was.
Okay.
What was Tony Soprano's car? The GMC?
He had two. He had a Tahoe or a Suburban, and then he had an Escalade for the last part of the show.
Let's
I
not forget the dump
After
trucks.
the opening of the song, the opening one.
That's a Tahoe.
That's what
I'm pretty
I thought.
sure it's a maroon Tahoe. I don't think it's a Suburban. I think it's a Tahoe.
I think that's iconic just because of the song. Sorry.
Yeah. Woke
Anyway.
up this morning.
Got myself a gun.
Yep.
Mom always told me.
So, with that, we are
Said you won $1
finishing
million.
Cars in Television. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have complaints, please message us those. We'd love to hear them. Second of all, share us on your social media. Go out there, put us out, show our Timberdoodles. Why?
Haley, all you're doing is encouraging him.
I hold the Timberdoodle like an Oscar.
Oh my God! Maybe that's what we need to do. We
Haley,
need to
I'll show
start-
you how you really perform this later.
We need to start
Grab
an award
spot.
show. We need an award show
With a
that we
Timberdoodle.
give out every year. Our award show will be the Timberdoodle, and we'll send it to the studios that make stuff we like. Start competing for our love now if you want a Timberdoodle.
So, subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Rank us, leave comments, subscribe. We need those.
We need it. We want to be loved. Thank you so much.
Or at least tolerate.
Bonehead's out of here. We're going to go whack off our Timberdoodles.
No, we're not.
Oh, just took it to a whole new level.
He's been
gargling
gargling
Mountain Dew.
semen for an hour.
Oh,
I was gargling Mountain Dew. Why does it have to be
It
sexual
tastes like
to you?
semen. Now, don't ask why I know that. Listen, it was college. I needed money.
Dude, you work at a college with this last week?
Maybe.